Hey there, welcome to yet again another exciting edition of Dr. IMG Abroad. If it's your first time watching this channel, I would like you to hit subscribe, like this video, share, and that will make the channel grow. Thank you very much. So today we will be talking about the highly skilled professional visa in Japan. So for you to have this status, you have to go through the point system that is put forward by the Japanese government, and it's pretty easy. You don't need an immigration lawyer to help you do this. You don't need special attention. You can sit right from the comfort of your room, prepare this document, submit it to the immigration office here in Japan, any one of them, and they will fast track your application and they'll work on it first, because that is considered, according to the Japanese government, as a priority application, because you're a very important arm to the Japanese labor force. So what does it comprise? So let's talk a little bit about it. The highly skilled professional visa has several components that I will show you here. So this visa gives you a fast track to having permanent residence in Japan. So that's one thing which is very important. So the advantages of having this visa is that first of all, you can become a Japanese permanent resident within a year of holding the highly skilled professional visa, or within 3 years. So there is within a year and there's within 3 years, so it depends on your score. So if you have a cutoff score based on these different elements, there's three main different profiles or portfolios that the government is going to take into account, which you can see on your screen right now. There is the academic pathway, there's a professional pathway, and there's the accountancy pathway, and all of these have different points that you just have to check with respect to if you meet these different criteria, and if you meet them, you check them, and then you can submit documents to the Japanese government immigration bureau, and you submit all of these documents in English. You don't need them to be in Japanese, but one condition is that you have to have a job in Japan which is paying you at least let's say 4 million equivalents in Japanese yen. You should check this out at the time you're watching this video, because things do get updated, and I'm not sure if this is still what it is at this point in time of recording of this video. So you might want to check that out, but you need to get that kind of revenue. So you need a company that has hired you, and then you're getting at least 4 million Japanese yen as annual salary. That is a very good condition. And next one is that if you have been living or working in Japan for a couple of years, that is also very important. If you've gone through a Japanese educational system, depending if that school is ranked like a top university in Japan, then that might also increase your points on the point roll, and you can find yourself ending points. If you have a master degree, if you have a PhD degree, and if you have a professional degree, which is like master degree equivalent, that bumps up your points, and then you can find yourself becoming a qualified candidate for this professional visa. So how do you prepare for it? You put together these documents from your employer, and then you should have a resident in Japan, so you want to go to the ward office and ask them to give you your certificate of residence of living in this particular prefecture. And next thing too is generally that is called a jumiho. You can get a jumiho from there. And then the next thing is that you want to also get your tax documentations from your local city office. So they will always give you that. So you just go there and say you want to have your tax information, and they will give you. If you've not worked in Japan and you don't have the tax information, there's no problem. You still go there, you ask them, and they'll give you a void document to show that you just started working, or you're about to just start working, and so you've not yet had a fileable tax profile in Japan, and that is pretty understood. The next thing also is that you submit additional documents in terms of like insurance, which are things that you would normally have once you just come to Japan. So you don't need to stress about that, you don't need to worry about that, you just get them handy, because it's everyone living in Japan pays for health insurance, and the government covers 70% of the fees, and then you cover just 30% of the fees. So It's mandatory, it's compulsory for all those who are living in Japan as residents. So it doesn't matter if you're a student, you're a teacher, you're a company worker, you're a diplomat, whatever status you have. If you have a long-term stay in Japan, you definitely will be paying for health insurance. And so the rest of the paperwork would just be documentations that will be given to you by your company that is hiring you. And that company will have to show that, you know, they've been in the business, they meet certain government criteria. As you can see, they're hiring you for a specific time. It's either a contract that has an end or an open-ended contract. So whatever the case is, it's very flexible, it's not very complicated, and you don't need to be speaking Japanese in order to be eligible for this. So English language is sufficient. You want to be able to get letters of recommendation, because every previous experience that you will include in it will count. Because also, if you've been working for, say, 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, that counts to increase your points in the pool. And so the many more years of experience you had in your home country before moving to Japan, the better for you. And so you have to ask for letters of recommendations from those companies. Generally, this application, once you pass it, they give you a visa which is minimum 5 years. Okay, and that visa usually is kind of, quotes for quotes, it's locked to a particular profession. So it's not an open, highly skilled professional visa. It's a closed one in a specific domain. So I'm talking about healthcare professionals. So it's going to be in healthcare professional field. So you'll be able to do a certain degree of things. This visa is quite important. And there's one thing that I'd like to make mention here. Please tell your company or those who are recommending you to give very summarized letters of recommendation. So the English should be very simple, because if the English is not very simple and the immigration officers cannot understand it, they will request for a certified Japanese translation, which is more work, a little tedious, and you know, you don't want to go through that hassle. So just make it very short. The shorter, the better. And the advantages of having this visa is that, firstly, you can have your permanent resident within a year if you had a score of over 80, and you can have your permanent resident, a Japanese permanent resident, within 3 years if you had a score of 70. Between 70 and 80, you have 3 years to live and work in Japan in order to be qualified for a permanent resident. If you had a score of 80, then you're qualified to apply for a permanent resident just within 1 year. That is because the Japanese population is aging, they need a labor force to increase, and the more qualified you are, which means the more points you have, it means the more qualified you are and the more you can bring into the labor force, and consequently you can support the Japanese government and the activities going around in Japan. So that is it about the visa. It's a very lucrative one. And one other advantage of the visa is that once you qualify for it and then you are applying for a permanent resident, which usually should take about 6 months to get, your document is fast tracked. Even once you apply for this visa, normally visas take about 2 weeks to 3 months. Usually you get your own in a very short period of time, in about 10 days or within a month at least, because it's a fast track pathway, because they believe that you are very important, you're contributing highly to the economy, and so they shouldn't trade your file last. So these are some of the advantages that you can have for this visa. I indulge everyone out there who has a medical background and has some years of experience and is here in Japan. Please don't apply for the regular work permit with your company. Apply for this special high-skilled visa, because it helps you again in having your permanent resident in Japan, which again then opens more doors for you not to be visa restricted in terms of your practice. And this is a very lucrative visa. Just get all your documentation, make sure you have your checklist, and once that is done, you don't need any immigration lawyer or consultant to follow that up for you. You don't need any of those. You can do it all by yourself from the comfort of your room. So it's very easy. Once your documentation is pretty clear, you really don't have any problems, and Japan tracks these documents, and they do a fast track job. So the immigration service is very rapid. They expedite everything in a very fast way, so you wouldn't have any delays in terms of obtaining your visas and changing your status while you're in Japan or while you're applying from abroad. So all these processes, there are things that you could literally apply also from abroad if you're still going to Japan for your first time. So stay tuned more on this, and if you have any questions, leave them in the description box. I'm going to leave the link for this application in the description box, and you could literally have it if you want it. So please like, share, subscribe, and I'm gonna talk to you later. Bye.